December 18th meeting of the Arlington Redevelopment Board recorded by ACMi. First on our docket this evening is public hearing for EDR special permit docket number 3551 to allow Gosselin and Kyriakidis PC Law Office to construct new and replace existing signage at 635 Mass Ave. I think we have Ally Carter from the department to walk us through, and I hope we have the proponents here this evening. So Ally, come on up, and then you can sit here.
Thank you, that's comfortable.
And then the proponents can come have a seat up here as well. This public hearing is open.
Ally Carter is the Economic Development Coordinator and assisted in preparing this memorandum, which I know you're getting a chance to review right now, but she'll help walk us through it. And
Okay.
So I think if you skip ahead to page 4, section 7, this is really the part that deals with the signage, which is what we're here for tonight. Amy, I got 2 copies of this one and one for the next one, so if I can borrow one later. Thank you. Sorry. Side note. Okay, so just to get you familiar with where we're talking about, it's the corner of Mystic Street and Mass Ave, the north side of that corner, 635 Mass Ave. So the previous sign was smaller, 22 inches by 77 inches. The proposed sign, wall sign on the facade is 28 inches by 15 feet. So it's still, the rules for the wall sign are that they have to be less than 4 feet tall. There's nothing about the width. So that is allowed in the zoning. The new things in this application that aren't currently on the building are a proposal to install exterior window film to reduce the solar exposure and the heat that comes into the building, also to provide some privacy. The area is just under 25% of the window area, the film area, and 25% is the max allowed by the zoning bylaw. There is a proposal for an awning to replace an existing awning on the building.
In addition to an existing awning.
Oh, in addition to, okay. It's said to match the existing awning?
Oh, I'm sorry. So the existing awning is for the adjacent tenant, so it
Okay.
would be a similar awning to kind of complement.
I understand,
Yeah.
okay. But we have no dimensions on that, or color or fabric.
Okay.
Okay,
So I have photo, yes, I
Okay.
can follow up with that.
There's also the proposal to add a bulletin board with an aluminum frame and a hinged glass door, 3 feet tall and 2 feet wide. So this is all the Mass Ave facade that I've been talking about so far. If we shift gears to the Mystic Street facade on the building, there's currently no signage there, but this proposes new signage, 22 inches tall, 12 feet 2 inches wide. No lighting. The existing glass would be replaced, but there's some nice metal grill work on that side of the building over the windows, and that would remain in place. It would just be replacing the glass. Yeah, it's on the exterior.
So it's like a decorative ironwork
Okay.
detail?
That's the front.
Oh, that's the
building.
front. Gotcha.
the other side of the building.
Okay. So it's a B5 zone. The one wall sign for each facade or parking, each street or parking lot frontage is allowed. As I said about the 4 feet height for the wall sign, so both the proposed signs are within that. Let's see. The awning would be allowed in this interpretation. So everything's a little bit bigger than what was there before and a little bit more, but much of it is allowed by the zoning. So just to summarize, the recommendations would be to replace the halo lit letters on the Mass Ave facade with gooseneck lighting, to remove the bulletin board, or to not allow the bulletin board to be installed. The Mystic Street signage proposal, given that it's in the Arlington Center Historic District, is probably not recommended. And we need more information about the measurements, colors, materials of the awning. If you skip ahead to section 10, page 6, it is a national, it's in the Arlington Center National Register Historic District. So that is sort of where, again, enjoying the use of the building and the landscape around it, that Mystic Street signage might not allow that. That's something for you to consider. Yeah, and that's the long and short of it.
Have you, sorry, I asked the proponents to introduce themselves before we get into questioning.
I'm Mika Ebrel, I'm the architect.
I'm John Gosselin. I'm the owner of the business.
Thank you for coming tonight. Have you met with the Historic Commission in town yet
Not yet.
to get a sense of their view here? Okay. Andy, you can get started if you want.
So is there a picture of the way it will look with the sign? Well, there we go.
Can we have them do a little dog and pony show for us before we
Yeah.
ask questions?
Why don't you?
I can just walk
Go
you
through
through
it,
the
sure.
document.
Yeah,
Can
that's
everybody
fine.
see this?
Yeah.
Oh, not over there, sorry. Folks at home. All right.
Here, do you want to come where?
How about if we go kind of
Yeah, I'll stand over here.
sideways-ish? Is that
We can
okay?
also move.
Yeah.
So what, sorry, I did not bring an easel.
That chair works.
Oh, yeah.
This chair works okay. There we go. So just to give you an orientation here, I've got some additional photos that are a little bit larger. So this is the existing Massachusetts Avenue side here. There's an existing tenant, it's Coldwell Banker on this side of the building, and Gosselin Law now occupies the other half of the first floor of the building. So this is a blow up of just that right portion of the building. The Mystic Street side is this elevation here, and Gosselin occupies from the front to these 3 windows and then these 2 smaller windows. So just to briefly walk through the scope.
Can I see those photographs?
Yeah, absolutely.
Pass those around.
And I'm going to flip to the signage drawings, and the way that they were done was kind of dividing the scope of work between the architectural and the signage scope of work. So I'll walk you through the architectural and then show you the signage. The new proposed sign would be in this location
On Mass Ave?
on Mass Ave. And you can see, maybe when the photo comes around, there is an existing long Coldwell Banker sign that is similar to what is being proposed here already on this canopy band.
Same height?
Same height, close if not the same. I didn't
Yeah.
get up a measure, but yes, it's in the same sort of spirit of the design there. The new canopy, and I do have a blow up of the Coldwell Banker canopy, and we can certainly provide more detail. So it's just a very simple commercial type of canopy that exists currently on the Coldwell Banker side. Something complementary, very similar, would be proposed over the Gosselin door, main door right here, with just simple text and some legal scales we're proposing on either side. So that would be over the main door, which is a similar configuration to what exists on the Coldwell Banker side. So that, again, the signage. And then on the side, there would be additional signage, and I will get to the signage drawings on this portion of the building on the Mystic side. So that's number 1, that's the signage. The exterior window film would be placed, as Ally had said, on less than 25% of the existing front windows, and that's just to mitigate some of the solar exposure and the privacy. So it's a law firm. There are and this is actually, there's a bus stop immediately outside of this door. So just to protect the privacy of documents and people that are actually in these spaces.
How high do those go up?
The window film?
Yeah.
The window film would be just 2'3" high. So the idea would be that it would actually be quite low. I'm sorry, it doesn't start at 2'3". It starts it starts about 3 feet from grade, and then it would go to it would be 2'3" high.
I
So
see.
that represents 25% of the size, the overall size of the window, which is 9'1". And then that would just be a continuous band that would run along all those front windows on Mass Ave. The
And
awning.
that's opaque.
It's frosted, so it's primarily opaque, but it allows some light to filter through. I described the awning already, and then on the Mystic side, there is this beautiful existing ironwork over glass block windows, so there's no views or light that's getting into the offices, and there's, this is a conference room, and there's a couple of offices along here. So Mr. Gosselin would like to replace the glass block with an actual window that would complement the existing. It's actually aluminum. All of the windows along the front side are these aluminum windows, which are just very similar to a simple storefront type of system with a brushed aluminum frame. And so he would like to retain the ironwork, but install just higher performing window. They're newer windows, so they're not the glass block, which really don't have very good thermal performance. And then would also allow for some light. There's a nice little pocket park just outside this elevation here, and just to get some light and views into these offices. And then the bulletin board, which I understand is not being recommended, but was a proposal just to put on the end of the building to put announcements or various
Community service type
community
things. Yeah.
announcements. And again, there is this nice park that's just been done right outside this on the Mystic side, which is quite nice. And there's some, as we said, a bus stop, so there's some nice foot traffic there, kind of along this whole corner here. So that's the architectural drawing, and I'll just briefly walk you through the signage drawing, which is being done by a signage contractor. Please disregard, I tried to erase it and it did not erase. Please disregard this ironwork that's being represented on the front elevation. It is not being pursued. It is not something that the building owner would like to pursue, so we have omitted that from our request. It's just the signage drawings didn't quite catch up with what the owner has, the building owner has approved, not Mr. Gosselin, but the building owner. And this is a representation of some text that would be placed on that translucent window film, just some small lettering indicating the different services offered by Mr. Gosselin's firm.
And what color is that? Is it going to be blue?
It's a white film, and then the letters themselves. So dusted crystal vinyl with dark gray letters. So it's like it's a white, really. It's a white frosting, and then this dark gray would be the text. Would be all the text letters. On the front door, there would be some additional lettering that would just have the name of the company, website, and phone number here, and that would be on the front door, and that would be an applied letter. Sort of applied text. They're calling again for a dark gray vinyl applied to interior of glass. So that's the Mass Ave side. And I will show a blow up of this, but this is that proposed sign. And actually what it is the existing letters that were taken from the previous location that Mr. Gosselin occupied, mounted on a back box similar to what Coldwell Banker has for their signage, and then halo lit. And I understand that there's a question about the lighting based on what Ms. Carter said. On the Mystic side, again, we would have some lettering, and this is acrylic lettering that would be on the Mystic side.
And how's that done? Is that raised lettering, or is
They're
it?
individual, yes, so you can see here, it's just a 1-inch standoff letter, and they're individual raised letters.
Just the gray or the color of, what's the color?
Yeah, charcoal gray in a satin.
And how high are those, 22 inches too?
These are 22 inches tall, correct, and then when you add up all the letters and the spacing, it's the 12'2" length.
Are those
on this.
existing too?
These ones are not existing,
They're
these
new.
are new, correct.
Or these ones that are existing look white?
They're silver.
They're
like
silver,
a
okay.
They're stainless,
Yeah,
yeah.
stainless.
But these would not be stainless, this would be,
Correct, these would be new and they would be the gray color on the Mystic side.
but they're the same height as the other letters, matching.
Let's double check. So those existing letters that are being relocated, yes, they are actually. They are 22 inches high for the letters, so this is the sign above the door. So those existing 22-inch high letters mounted on a back box that is charcoal gray in color, and each individual letter is just mounted to that box. The whole box is wired, and that's how the lighting is fed to the letters.
So they're lighting, they're glowing letters.
They are halo lit letters, correct. So each letter has a little light behind it. So the whole, all the letters sort of glow soft.
And that's what
soft
Coldwell
light.
is doing, has done.
Coldwell's is not.
I don't
It-
think Coldwell is.
Well, it's not
No.
backlit.
It
They're just
is-
the letters on the
They
board. On the
do,
board.
yeah, they have the
There's no lighting.
standoff letters, but no lighting into
No, I
it.
don't think they stand off. I think they're just glued to the board.
Oh,
No matter. Into-
yeah. There is a bit of dimension to them, but they may not be stood off, correct.
No, they are still off.
They're stood
They
off,
They're
stood
stood
off a
off.
little bit, it's, yeah.
Yeah, they're stood off a little bit, but
but not glowing.
not
I've
glowing.
never
And
seen
this
it.
is a section through this
nothing came
sign
glow.
box,
Yeah.
showing.
Glowing's
the
a bit
standoff.
strong. There's little tiny LED
Yeah,
lights
right.
behind it.
It's not neat, it's not neat.
But you're talking backlit.
It's backlit LED though. It's very white.
But it's backlit on the letter, it's not it's not
Correct.
glowing the back.
No, not at all. No, it's
Each
just
individual
the letter.
letter.
Each
Yeah.
letter.
So it's within a box.
Each letter is its own box. Each letter's
Oh,
wired.
oh,
The,
okay,
the
okay.
wires pass through this box.
Then why does it have the black background?
Yeah, so the letters sit on, this is the box that
Oh,
houses all the
that's the
power.
box, okay.
Right?
Okay.
And so that sits off of the face of the building, and then all of these little letters are powered from conduit that runs through this box. to
Out those
power.
little pins.
Yeah, I'm not sure honestly exactly how they do it, but yes,
So the background is the black.
it's a charcoal color.
Charcoal.
Yeah,
So-
it's a gray color.
Do the letters themselves glow, or just you're seeing the outline?
Just the glows of really. That's not the right word, really. It's just the outline of the letter, and it's very crisp. It's not aura like. It's very crisp.
But yes, the letter is faintly illuminated.
So there's like a lighted border around each letter?
It's within the letter, it's got.
Within the letter itself.
The letter itself is a translucent.
No,
white.
not at all. The
No?
letters are stainless. No, it's behind.
Oh.
It's like a backlight.
It's behind.
So
it's,
it is-
it's a backlight, but it
then
doesn't.
it's shedding
it doesn't
light onto
bleed.
the-
But it doesn't bleed. No, it bleeds this way. So
It's a halo.
laterally.
It's a halo like a light
What's
around
it shedding light on?
the background.
Really
Background.
nothing. It's just
On
the
the
back.
gray,
Just
on
the
the dark
background.
gray.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that the letter's pronounced.
Okay.
So we had it on copper before.
So the light is shining back onto the gray.
Right.
And then kind of reflecting
And then
back
yeah.
out subtly.
It's not harsh. It's very gentle. It's hard.
Stainless steel.
Stainless steel. Yeah.
And then around the other side is stainless steel.
No, the other side would be acrylic.
The acrylic with no lighting on
No,
the
with no
Mystic
lighting.
side.
There's plenty of lighting in that park. So at night, it's actually
And the
unbelievable.
acrylic is what, you told me already, what color is that?
Charcoal gray.
Okay, so the gray of the background kind of matches the thing.
Exactly.
So it's a yin yang, okay. good.
Exactly. And then just again, a bit of a detail of the bulletin board, but I do have a cut sheet of what's being proposed.
Is the bulletin board behind a door?
It's just a,
Concrete wall.
Oh, it's a glass thing.
right, it's just a very basic, very simple.
like a movie theater would have.
Right.
Yeah.
Simple bulletin board.
And we envision, using it for our own community service events, but also for, community groups could use it because it's a very central location.
And then this just shows Mr. Gosselin's previous location with those existing letters, just so that you can see.
You're
what
just
those
using
look
the one on the left.
Just one, yes.
No, the one on the right.
Oh, I'm sorry, the one on the right and the one on the left are being retained for other use on the inside, I believe.
Right,
So
yeah.
the one
That's,
on
yeah,
the
that's what
right.
it's in. The one on the right.
These
Is
ones.
going,
On Mass Ave, on the charcoal
Yeah, they're quite
background.
thin.
but
It's
they
hard-
look,
it's-
they look blue there.
Yeah,
Might just
it's
be
the sky.
I think it's just the printer, yeah, they are a stainless material.
Really? Okay, yeah, they're just reflecting the sky.
Yeah.
God, I mean, they just amazingly fit in that same zone that Coldwell Banker fits in.
Yeah.
Right.
Must be a standard size or something. So that's the
That looks
proposal.
bigger than 22 inches, amazing.
Well, I thought there was something about an awning.
Oh, the awning, yes. So we've simply just described it in text and with some simple dimensions, 2'6" high and about 8'9" wide to match again the Coldwell Banker awning. But I can follow up with additional detail if that's being requested as well.
So the awning is proposed to be at the entry of
Correct.
the place only.
Correct.
Because
One
the
awning at
because
the
the
entry.
Coldwater one's only like maybe 6 feet long at most.
Right, so it would
Wide.
just span it would span the 2 side lights in the entry door at
Okay.
Gosselin's front door.
We have a very practical reason for this awning, is that people stand in our doorway all day long waiting for the bus when it rains, and they're hit by the door, and people have to push them out of the way. And a lot of them are elderly people who come from the senior housing, and they don't quite understand that standing in front of an active doorway is not best for, flow of traffic. So we figure with the awning, we're going to be able to extend the shelter area a little bit.
And that's about 9 feet?
Wide?
Yep.
It is 8'9", so yes, very close to 9 feet.
And it'll stick up the same way, same fabric, or
Yeah, it'll be
different color, though,
identical.
right? It won't be the Coldwell blue. It'll be your gray.
Did we discuss color? I think it would probably be our gray. Our company colors are charcoal and gray, so I think we'd prefer to have our own color scheme. Our landlord has not a lot of preference on colors. I don't think he's more concerned. I don't know what he's concerned about. Iron.
Function,
Yeah,
design.
iron. Yeah. So I imagine we would use charcoal as our color, just to distinguish ourselves from them, because we're a continuous block, so we want to be different
Yeah,
from them.
I just wish you shown the awning on the
I'd like to see
elevation,
the
because that's such a prominent elevation. It's right in the square. It's everywhere it's happening, and it's very hard for me to.
Yeah, I guess it's shown in line work, but it's not shown with any sort of
Would it be
shading, so
gray,
that
charcoal
probably
gray?
would have helped. Yeah.
Charcoal gray with white white letter?
It would probably with gray lettering.
Can you
Charcoal gray with
flip
gray
it
lettering?
to where the signage is?
Sure.
So the awning would be a little less than the signage, though, right? I mean,
Correct.
I'm just trying
It
to.
would just be the doorway with the
Yeah.
side lights in the doorway.
I'm just trying to envision how the whole thing will look in the whole elevation there, where you have. Now you're introducing this white strip of film all across along the bottom there, the gray awning, and then the gray sign up top on this building. And that's a pretty big change to the whole elevation there. And since it's historic, I'm just very sensitive to.
Yeah, I think saying it's white is also a bit strong. I've seen the samples of it. It looks more smoky, I guess. So,
Frosted.
Yeah.
Frosted. It's
Yes.
like a
Frosted.
typical frosted window. I don't know what typical means, but it's not screaming out that it's white.
It's not bright white. It
No.
just adds I don't know how.
And we
else to
certainly
say
don't.
it.
We're not really that married to a specific tone for that use, because it's more for the privacy. Because right now we have people who are waiting for the bus standing in the window
People
looking
behind.
in. So we have our shades closed.
I have less issues with
Yeah.
the shading. It's just the whole composition, and I mean your font is a lot better than Colwell's. And yours is not bold. Theirs is bold. And so
comment.
I think it's a little more sensitive.
Yeah.
It's just hard. I don't know. Do you see it? Do you feel that whole composition is so okay? I don't know. I can't.
So take into consideration also that there's lettering on the windows all above on the second floor. There's another law office and an insurance.
They're in
agency
gold
above,
across the
they're in
top.
Yeah.
gold. So
I bet they are.
I don't think completely restricting them from having letters on the windows is fair or reasonable. I'm on board with your reasoning for wanting the film in there. I think that makes sense.
Also, Coldwell Banker has
Coldwell
you know,
Banker has
real
lettering
estate
in the window.
ads in all the
Yeah.
windows.
And banners. Yeah.
All manner of things.
Yeah, I don't think I'd have an issue with that. I think, and I'm actually familiar with your old location. I drive by it almost daily. The letters are nice looking, and it's a good photo, but it doesn't really reflect that.
No.
They look, I think they'll be a good addition on the front of the building here, but I think I would, as with the report from the department, I think I would choose to light them differently, either with gooseneck lighting or some other recommendation from the department.
Our overall brand image is very subtle and understated. I mean, our business is very sober and serious, so we specialize in the crisis for the elderly. So
Okay. Are they? I can't remember. Are they lit?
No, those aren't lit. The ones on this side are
The ones on the
with
right
LED.
that you're using, are they lit?
They are.
They are
They're
lit.
very, very, again, the little
Yeah.
Christmas lights, little white
Mhm.
lights behind them.
I think, and Jenny, you can correct me if I'm wrong, we just simply don't allow that kind of
We
lighting in
don't
that
allow that
district.
kind
Yeah.
of lighting,
Okay.
no.
So the alternative would be to just not use the lights that are in them and just use a goosenet light to highlight them.
Mhm.
Okay. I mean, I'm neutral on that, really.
Yeah,
It
no,
doesn't- it's not a big
that's
difference.
something we could.
As long as I can use the letters again. 'Cause,
So-
I think,
Sorry,
go ahead.
This is our recommendation, but you would still need to go through a next
Yeah.
level of review with
Understood.
the Arlington Historical
Yeah.
Commission, so
Yeah.
I think they should have the final approval of the
So
aesthetics,
I've
some of
got
the
some
aesthetics.
Yeah.
questions and concerns.
Go ahead, Gene.
Let me start with the lighting of the sign. I'm not really clear whether what they're proposing violates the sign law. If I've got the right thing, it says signs fabricated with letters, numbers, designs, or images consisting of a visible light source emitted from the face of the sign, right, including but not limited to incandescent and fluorescent bulbs, LED, blah, 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 are prohibited. So is that what we're relying on? And do we think this is emitted from the face of the sign?
That's what we're relying on, yeah. That is the way it's phrased, and that's what we've applied with other
I can
applicants.
understand that if it was like a glass sign with lights behind it, that would be prohibited. It's hard for me to figure it out
Right,
without actually seeing.
It's
We don't have
it's
enough
gently
without
glowing.
actually
It's not,
understand how it
seeing
looks.
it's not
this.
really
That's the
lit
problem.
brightly, right?
No,
So
not
right
at
now,
all.
we don't really
It's a little
understand.
bit-
It's very
We have
white.
a description,
It's a
a
little bit,
verbal
yeah.
description, but we don't have anything that is
Yeah.
actually showing us the way that lighting would work, and if it is
Right.
truly in violation as stated
Right,
in the
I
bylaw.
can't
So
decide
it's a
without
judgment
seeing it
I
whether
agree.
it violates
Yeah.
It might
or
be
not.
fine.
26 at night.
It wasn't very exciting. Let me see. I could look. I mean, it was Winchester, okay? So they're-
Google night.
Yeah.
Well, so I'm not ready to say it violates or not violates yet, because, in my opinion, because I'd like to see it first. On the other hand, I think I disagree with everyone here. I think the film is a really bad idea. That is a really prominent corner. And I just think we don't need more prominent corners where people are walking by a bank of windows with 5 feet high, a little more than 5 feet high, blank, gray, or opaque. My sort of feeling is that does not fit in with what should happen at that corner, and they can do things with internal blinds and things like that, blinds on the inside that are 5.5 feet high. I think there are a lot of things that they can do, and I just think that's not in keeping with what we want. It starts going against the idea of having a nice streetscape, I think. So I have a lot of problem with the film. Not sure about the sign on the front, and I have no problem with the sign on the side, assuming they can get it by the Historic Commission, because that's a separate issue, because they're technically allowed for a sign on your side. I don't like the bulletin board either.
That's why I disagree with you, Gene. I
Okay.
really don't like the sign on the side.
Okay.
That sign on the side is right at the beginning of that bike path. And it's a city park that we spent a lot of money fixing up.
It's the Uncle Sam.
Right,
Park,
so-
so I
right,
can't
I was
imagine
trying to
the
figure out where the
Historical Commission's
statue
gonna allow
is.
that.
And
Yeah.
I just can't see that sign going there in that
I-
park, okay?
I have the same issue with that sign. I just don't think it's appropriate to have signage
But I'm okay with
basically
the rest of the stuff.
overhanging the park.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good
I-
point about
I'll give
where
my
it would
vote.
be
I-
located.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
I think it's all good. I like the film. I think it's appropriate for private conversations inside, but still lets a lot of light in, whereas if you put shades in, it's gonna look like a mess. I think the signs are pretty elegant, and the sign on the side is far enough away and done nicely. I think it's okay. So, but the Historical Society will have to approve it, and I agree with Gene on that. Those types of subtle lighting of letters might just be okay, and not in a violation of our sign law, which in extreme was trying to stop really brightly lit letters.
Mhm.
So I fall in favor side of what I'm seeing here. I think it's pretty elegantly done.
We seem to be in a little quandary here.
I don't think we're gonna take a vote tonight anyways. I think there's still some concern over, we need to actually see what the lighting looks like. And I think we all had said that we want to see some rendering of what the awning.
I can short circuit maybe your problem. I'm perfectly happy with the goosenecks. I mean, I just, as long as I have those letters, I don't really care how they're illuminated. It's cheaper for me not to have a new electrical system put in for the lights and just having, spots on them.
Mhm.
So I'm absolutely neutral. I don't have a strong feeling either way. So if it's something I can amend my proposal, I'm happy to have.
I still don't think that's.
Illumination.
I still don't think that that's enough to get us to over the
Okay.
hurdle of not having the awning and the whole thing. That's what you're trying to say, right? I don't want to speak.
I'm also happy to defer the awning to future months because we have no signage right now and no
Yeah.
one knows what the heck we're doing in there. So we have people walking in literally all day long asking us what we're doing there. And they, we're at the point now where my receptionist just says, yes, because it looks like a generic office. And anyone's driven by, it's completely built out. It's a beautiful office with no signs of any kind.
Okay.
So, if I might,
Go ahead,
what we've done in the past where there's these additional questions is we do typically have them go through a staff review process with whatever your requested, revisions or review might be. We can do that at the staff level to get them moving down the path faster. Because I will just say that the next time they can come back, if you want to continue the hearing, they won't be back until later in January.
So, I'm interested to hear what everyone else has to say on that. I think I'd be okay with that. I think the issues
but
here
with
are
some real
are
clear
minimal, with some
structure.
clear instructions,
Yeah.
some conditions on how this has to go and what we expect your staff to do as
Mhm.
far as reviewing the lighting and seeing whether it's appropriate and matches up with the existing bylaw, whether we recommend goosenecks. And then there's an awning at Coldwell Banker. I don't see too much controversy with an awning there. I just want an idea of what it looks like,
Mhm.
and I'm happy to delegate that to staff. So,
And what about the around the corner?
So-
How do we handle that? I think we've got,
I don't care for the sign on the corner. I know that they're allowed to have it.
in the park.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
I'd prefer that they didn't go forward with the side, but I also don't see that getting by the historical commission. So, I'll leave it up to the rest of you.
It's like 3-2 or
I think I got
3-4.
outvoted on that one. So,
I'm okay with the sign on the side because
Oh, you are?
if the historic commission approves it, fine.
That's kind of where I'm.
If they don't, they don't.
Yeah.
okay.
I defer to the historic
Yeah, I think
commission,
that-
even
I
though
think
I
that-
Okay,
don't
then we-
personally like it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. I will go that way too. I don't like it.
So there are some recommended conditions for us in the staff report. If you look at those, general conditions are all as usual. Usually
Just the
apply.
first one is the one that includes the pieces from the bottom of page 5. So it's basically we were recommending addressing the issue of how to replace the halo lit
Okay.
letters.
Well, I think they will address those, and we'll leave that up to staff as to whether we can go with that. I think they can show you some sort of.
We can
reasonable
probably find
facts on
another
how they look
better
now.
location that has it or something. They're not rare.
And then the removal of the bulletin board. We recommended removing the Mystic Street signage. I'm reading in number 1A1 on page 7.
I thought we were.
We're not recommending removing.
No, I know, I'm just telling you what was in the
Yeah,
staff
so-
recommendation. So if you want to amend, this is
Yeah,
this is where the
I'd
time
leave the
would be.
bulletin board. I'm okay. You guys
You're
okay with the bulletin board?
No, I am not okay with the
Okay.
bulletin board.
I'm also not in love with the bulletin board, but again, I think that's maybe more of a question for the
I'm
historic
kind of
commission.
indifferent as to the
I
bulletin
think the
board.
bulletin board's another sign, and it's different, and they're not entitled to 2 signs.
Interesting.
We don't intend to use it for commercial purposes, and we would actually open it to community groups. It's just it's where a lot of foot traffic happens in town, and we just like the fact that we
There
put
are other
awning
buildings in that block that use a bulletin board in addition to their signage.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, to me, I like it if it's graphically nice, it's behind glass, it's kind of old school. I don't know, it seems
That's
like
what we're
a,
thinking.
You know, looking
We can
at
allow it and just restrict it from being used for marketing purposes.
Is that
Where would it be on the building?
Right at the corner.
where,
We showed it right in the
Yeah,
corner.
it's,
On the Mass Ave side in the corner.
and it would be for posting notices, which is actually a different type of sign, technically, not counted in the total count of signs on property.
And what would it look like?
It would just
Oh,
be a
it's in
very
there.
Like a movie theater would have for a poster.
simple-
Well, it has a, it has
my
like
vision
a,
of
looks
it.
like a cabinet.
Yeah, it's just like
yeah.
a little cabinet with a stainless frame and
glass
a
cabinet, right?
glass
Glass
face, right, and then a tackable surface on the back.
Like corkboard?
Looks like this. Bulletin board, aluminum frame with glass door hinged, size TBD.
It's one light, not two, the way you showed it.
That's one light.
It's one, yeah, exactly. They just don't give you every variation. And it would have a small integrated LED strip light at the top that would just gently graze the surface of, of that internal tackable surface.
Yeah, it's 2-2 right now. Yeah,
So,
indeed.
I
I
have,
like it. But
I
I'm
think
with
the
it.
corkboard is tacky and not.
Well, it could be
Well,
white. It would be
No,
like a
it's-
white.
it's white, it's
Yeah,
not
it would be like a
cork, yeah.
white.
I'd be inclined to go against the bulletin board. But,
It's okay. I like the bulletin board, but.
but I
It seems like
could
it's.
also leave it to the historical commission.
Sure.
In fact, the historical commission could even put something up on it if they like to talk about why it's a historical corner. I don't really care what it is. I like just the fact that the building's being used as a service.
Go ahead.
I wanted to come back to the Mystic Street sign again. So I'm getting a little bit hung up on the under the special permit criteria, section 10.11A6. The requested use will not impair the integrity or character of the district or adjoining districts. And having a prominent commercial sign in a public park, particularly one we just spent a lot of money revitalizing, I think may fall under that, as well as EDR 10 with respect to Arlington's heritage, removal or disruption of historic, traditional, or significant uses, structured, or architectural elements. And I mean, to me, this seems like potentially a disruption of a significant use to have, again, prominent commercial signage in that very small park.
If I could produce some photographs, I don't have them tonight, but from in the past, the building's been there since 1902, and historically there have been signs. Arlington National Bank had signs on that face. I don't know if that matters, but it has been used for signage by our ancestors, people from history.
Happy to look at
Okay.
whatever you would
All right,
like to
yeah.
present.
Yep, Ally has a comment.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I can just comment on that. That signage was, the signage that was previously on the Mystic Street sign was very, very large and actually the subject of a great deal of debate. And in the file, in my research, there is a very strongly worded order to take it down. It's much larger, to be fair, than what is currently being proposed. It was extremely large. Like 25% of that side of the building, large.
But also, could we see the proposed position of that sign? Yeah, I think it's right behind this tree.
It's right here, yeah, right there.
Yeah, there's a lot of trees on this side too. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's right in the middle
No,
of the
it's
park.
not behind the tree though. It's
but-
it's near the,
There's a light post, I
it's
think.
over the smaller end of the building, so it'd
Yeah,
be right over
yeah,
here.
yeah.
On this-
Yeah,
this
I'm
end.
looking.
The
Yeah,
tree right
you're
there.
looking
Yeah,
at
the
it.
tree at the corner here.
They don't show a tree.
Oh,
They
yes.
don't show a tree in that picture you show,
I
but
think-
the existing, we put a tree there.
Oh, yeah.
There is a tree there now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is the existing, right?
Go ahead.
Where's the Uncle Sam?
The Uncle Sam statue
It
is.
will be.
Where's the Uncle Sam?
It's
Much further down to the right.
here.
Yeah, if I don't know if you all can see
Yeah, I see it. Yeah,
Google
yeah,
map
yeah.
that I pulled up. It would kind of be right in.
Right in there, yeah,
Yeah.
right over those windows,
Mhm.
those screens.
Yeah. The entrance to the bike path behind the Uncle Sam statue.
I just
in a
don't
way.
think that's a very good place for it. Everything else.
I mean, I think I'd be okay with it if it could move here.
I mean, I'm fine, because, you know, for us, it's about traffic count. There's an enormous amount of cars going up and down that corridor all day, and, you know, we want to be visible, known. I think anywhere along that wall would be fine.
I think if it could move closer to the corner. Yeah, this corner here. I think I'd be more
Are
inclined to
those
support
existing
it.
letters you plan to reuse?
No, that would be new. So I'm happy to be flexible about what it
You would
what
have to make it
appears.
smaller,
It
because
would have to be smaller.
Or smaller,
Because
yeah.
you left the same size, it's gonna sit right on top of that window
Yeah.
edge
Right,
there. and it's
right,
not
right.
gonna
It
look
wouldn't,
right.
it wouldn't
if you
look,
could
it
do
wouldn't look
some-
proportionate.
I think if you
yeah.
could do something smaller, that's on this side of the building and away from the Uncle Sam statue in the park,
Right.
that's there.
Actually, where you were pointing, that corner face is like, it's a cement area. It's
Mhm.
actually quite good for a small sign, because it's
Yeah,
plain.
I think if you could do a small sign there, it would solve a lot of my problems with that.
And it also helps for identity, just for people coming to our business, because when they're coming northbound,
approaching on the bus.
they
They
can
know where
see
to
where
go.
we, approaching on the bus and just driving northbound, they don't know where to go. They don't know
I
which
see your,
building.
I see your point.
Yeah.
I agree with you on that.
Yeah,
I agree.
take it away from the bike path, take it away from
That
the
zone doesn't
statue.
get into, you know.
I agree.
But
I
put
agree
it over
also.
here
Yeah.
and.
I think that's a good solution.
Take it up to
Yeah.
take it up to the corner, make it a little bit smaller, still visible, still a good marker for people who are looking for you. But I think if you can do that, then
Yeah, I have no problem with that.
So what's the motion on the table?
it's all over the place.
What's the?
We don't have a motion.
Amos, we don't have a
Well,
motion yet.
I'm still kind of putting it together myself. So what, with the last item, reduce the Mystic Street signage, we'll just
Well,
call it
what
that
I
for
heard
now.
was we.
But
we
what's
m-
smaller?
We
What is-
move, no, well, we move it to the zone near the corner. And we reduce the size of it to fit the existing stone coursing.
Okay,
And we would approve that pending the historical commission approving it. Or are we saying now it's okay?
No, I think it
no,
has to go
it still
for
would go,
right.
yeah, that's actually another item on here.
That's what I heard, if I'm,
Yeah, and I don't think we have a choice to take it out of there. I
fine,
think they
fine.
have to-
Yeah.
So I think that's a nice,
Okay.
so that's that.
Bulletin board?
I heard a lot of negatives on that. but
I heard that too, yeah, I know that you.
Well, it was 2-2.
It was. I'm on the fence.
You have to jump one way or the other.
I know.
We don't have a size. What are you thinking in terms of the sizing? It just said TBD in the.
Oh, on the signage
on
chart,
the-
Show
yes.
the ele- show the
maybe
elevation.
Yeah, I want to say 36 by 24
we
or something.
said- Yeah, we specified it on this drawing, 36 inches high by 24 inches wide.
Show the elevation again.
It's a poster, like you see it, like literally like you see it in front of a
Yeah.
movie theater. It's just
Where
one of those
Is that going
on the corner,
on the corner?
Just right here on the corner.
which is a blank face right now.
I mean, I wouldn't want to see it with garish signage in it, but if it was kind of just this nice little. glass
Garish
cap.
doesn't work with my line of business.
That's why I get, your overall thing doesn't seem to me as jumping out.
We're
No, it's all very subtle.
Yeah.
The building that they have in Winchester.
But you guys object to it as in a public place, you're saying?
I just think a corkboard doesn't fit in with the way.
It's a
that
white,
aerial-
a white
It would be a
corkboard behind a
white-
glass
If
stainless
it
steel
were-
case.
If it were those, I don't even know what to call it, the ones with the little grooves where the
Slabs.
letters fit in.
Yeah.
I think that would fit in.
What if it were to go
Tenor of the
over
neighborhood.
here instead of down in the corner of the building?
I think that gets too
Yeah,
cluttered.
that's.
Yeah.
But I know what Gene is saying, that's what I was thinking too. It's
Yeah,
like those
I-
little,
our-
those old lawyer, those little directories that they
Well,
have.
our vision was not to use it for commercial, but also that
Right.
corner, people stand there for a minute and a half or so
Yeah.
all day long.
Yeah.
So it's something to look at and read and think about.
Gina, you think of something like a felt covered cork, so it's not really cork.
No,
but it's
he's
more-
thinking the black
Yeah.
plastic or metal slats.
But I think
with the white letters.
I
that
think
go
the
in 'em.
proponent's thinking more that community groups would put flyers in there.
It
and
would be
things
used for
like that.
postings rather than, yeah.
The slats will work then.
And
that
it's
would-
not brown, it wouldn't be brown, it would be like a white tackable,
But that does
like a
worry me
homicide.
that it's gonna be a lot of different things pasted
No,
over
Be
it.
like
there,
yeah.
because we would have control of it, we would control the visual message that's there, and we wouldn't want to have more than one message at a time. So, I mean, it could be announcing a Chamber of Commerce event. I mean, actually, I haven't approached Chamber of Commerce yet, but I thought they may like to use it to announce their events, tree lightings
That's why the
and
board with
different
the
things.
letters, I think, would look a lot better. And then you wouldn't have to say, what happens if you know, they end up with signs that we say, wow, that's really inappropriate, once we give the approval.
I don't want to throw something too terrible out there, but they make an LED version of that.
No, don't do that.
Okay, sorry.
The only problem with what Gene and I are talking about is it's a lot of work. If you find the product and then show it to the board, show it to the planning department, I would be okay with them.
I mean, there may be
Personally.
also a felt system where you use
Yeah.
like, you know, Velcro letters that stick on there. But
We just
we can
don't,
do
I
a
don't
little
think we
more
want it
homework.
to look to hodgepodgey.
Yeah, I don't
It
either.
should be nice and clean and neat.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It would be
I was
like
envisioning.
one
I was envisioning
poster
movie
for-
posters,
Not-
like actually
not
go
like
to.
a bunch of stuff
I was thinking
pasted.
like you go to the
No,
FedEx
with
store and
business
you print
cards
out a
and-
color
So you're thinking
poster,
of having one
poster
one poster
at a
one
time.
The high school play.
advertisement.
Right, the high
Yeah.
school
For lack
play,
of
like a
better
movie
word.
theater would have a poster. That's
Okay.
where you go to
So as
FedEx, you get
opposed
a
to,
color
you know,
poster printed
corporate
out.
Starbucks where people.
No.
Right.
I don't want to have
He would
to.
have the key.
I have to
Yeah.
go open it. I mean, I want to
Yeah.
do it like once a month. Go and
Okay.
open it.
So you would basically, if someone wanted to, if a group wanted to put a poster in there, you'd give them the spec for what size it would
Right.
need to be, and it would
24 by
fill the whole
36
thing.
poster, and 2 weeks at a time, and I'd be open to anybody. I wouldn't discriminate if it's any message.
Actually, if that's the case, I think I'd support it, because typically what you have is a sandwich board out on this island anyway.
Yeah,
We
I
can
kinda
replace
like,
that.
I agree, I
I
like
like
it.
that better. Yeah.
Gene?
I'm already gonna vote no because of the film on the windows. I think it sounds better if it says limited to one poster at a time.
Yeah.
That takes up most of the size of the board.
That's what we
You
want.
know, I think that's more reasonable.
Yeah, I think that's.
I just want to, so Gene, just in terms of your concern about the streetscape, which I understand that we don't, it's not preferred to have pedestrians looking at essentially a blank wall, but I'm not clear on what you're thinking about for internal screening that would actually be any better from that perspective.
Yeah, here what you have is a portion of the window covered over with some sort of translucent or opaque film, but the rest of the window would be open.
But
Right.
We're talking about,
But it's above eye
if I
level for
remember,
some
Yes.
people.
fi- about
back
5
onto that
feet,
screen?
5 feet
From grade.
Yeah,
or
And then there's
something
an
like that from grade.
right.
So I could see over it.
Right there, that right there.
But you'd look
Right
like
there.
a creep.
But right,
Yeah.
I would look like a creep and other people wouldn't.
They would, like, we're sitting
Yeah,
here, they
that's-
wouldn't see us.
When I see,
So let's say the window's full of
when I
film.
see how it looks on.
The
We
whole
want
point
it,
is they
it
want to have
has to be lower
privacy,
Yeah.
because of the
but not,
restrictions.
but let
This
the
looks a
light
lot
in.
more
I know,
Yeah.
I think they can use.
Open.
I mean, the advantage I think for internal blinds or shades or something is that when they're not using the room, they would be more likely to open them up to let the light in, and it would be, I think, just a better
That would be
streetscape.
almost,
Yeah, our other problem is that we are facing west, I believe. Yes. So we get it very hot in the afternoon, even in the winter. So I think that our blinds would have to be semi down. We have them down now. We just got them, but they're down almost all the way all day. But it's very claustrophobic inside the room, so we bring them up a bit.
So you've already got top down.
We have top-down blinds.
Okay.
Like, yeah, because they're very tall windows. They don't really. I guess they could make it up bottom up, but they're like a 10-foot high blind or 10-foot long blind. We also will be putting lettering in the windows, like our brothers upstairs. So I'd rather have the kind of classier look of the frosting with the letters instead of just the letters, naked.
What if were you okay maybe eliminating letters and just having the frosting?
No, because it's telling people what we do there, because it's very unclear what we actually do, and our practice is very specialized, so it's important for
They
us to
do it over in the
communicate.
building opposite Shaddix, the medical, that's what they do there.
Yeah.
And I actually think that's a little garish with the blue, but it's okay. We approved it. If it's white, like kind of frosted glass.
I'm color. I really don't care what the color is.
Frosted
It's-
glass, like like you see in patterned glass
Yeah,
windows
like
that you see in
sandblasted or
offices.
something.
That-
I mean,
that would be
this
nice.
is ultimately this is a giant sticker that sticks on the glass, and we can buy the sticker in any color. So if you want the color to be a little darker, that doesn't really make any difference to us. I mean, it's really just the idea of having
I
something
think the
to.
whitishness is
I'm
good.
concerned
yeah.
with the gray wall, which is what
Yeah, it would make
sounds
it
like
white.
it would be.
white is nice, because it looks like frosted
So
glass.
currently it's
Yeah.
proposed to be dusted crystal.
Right, which is essentially like a grayish
So what's
white.
the next shade that
Lighter.
you could get? Yeah, lighter. What's the next shade?
I
We
think
can
you
find out.
Maybe that could be
You
something
You should
to
look at a
review.
sample of it, because we're
Mhm.
not,
Yeah, we
you
don't
know,
have
we
it.
don't
We
have
can get
any
samples.
idea.
Yeah, I imagine they make white.
Yeah.
It's just like a big white sticker. Yeah.
I think the idea is to simulate etching. So when you
Right.
think about like almost like sea glass or like it just it
Yeah, I
takes
think
that
that's what
color
Andy's
and just
describing.
That's what I would love to
etches
see,
it.
I'd like
that
to see something
old
like
fashioned
that.
Right.
Yeah, well, that's what we. That's
lawyer
what I-
door
That's
glass.
what I thought it
dusted
was.
crystal, exactly.
Oh, well, that's what I thought it was. I mean, we in our prior office we actually had etched glass where.
Right,
So yeah, so it was a window that was already gray, and they like they used a sandblast or something.
Yeah,
that
that's the
came
thing.
out with the letters.
Simulate
That's what I
that.
was trying to simulate here.
yeah, that would be nice, I
Well,
think.
that I think would be better than the gray.
Yeah, I just hard to communicate.
Yeah, I think here it looks
yeah, I didn't
very
see it.
dark.
So it's
but
translucent.
it's
I
not
asked that
actually
question,
blue.
it's not,
Yeah.
blue, yeah.
Yeah, the wall, it's the film itself is very light. The lettering will be darker, so it's
it's
recognizable. But
contrast.
yeah,
Screened or what's on the
Yeah,
case
I
of
think
And we
the
can provide a sample of that material.
Yeah, sure.
of that
I think that would be
material.
another
You can even
thing.
put it on glass and see what it.
I think
Yeah,
that'd be
I think
another thing for
I'd
the
like-
staff to look
I
at.
already liked it.
See, I think that's
fine.
internal. That's like a counter or something.
Okay,
there.
we're close
Okay,
here.
We're getting there.
They just have the,
What
whatever
else? The
these-
awnings? I think we got
Can't
the,
tell if those are just shades or blinds.
Okay.
The awnings, okay.
we don't really have the details on the measurements, what it would really look like. So I think, I know what you have is
Right.
there, but maybe showing us
More detailed
a
drawings.
Showing you.
detailed drawing of what that looks like.
Like a section would be helpful. okay.
Sure.
And the colors
Okay.
and the material, which I think I understand, but just
Right.
to see it, what it actually looks like.
Okay.
Where did we end up on the poster?
The bulletin board, I think I heard to keep the bulletin board for posting notices limited to one poster, and it's 2x3.
right.
I didn't hear anything about supporting the LED lighting around it, though. So that was
At the
That's
top.
just
that's
little
just at the top.
tiny
Is that
glow.
okay, or are we?
Yeah.
Do we have a question
That makes it
about that?
nice.
It's a
Yeah.
glow.
Yeah.
So then I'm not
Teeny-
gonna put it
teeny
all
tiny.
like
Yeah.
that. Okay.
And the posters should be for community purposes rather than commercial purposes.
Right.
That'd be great.
Yeah, it would be to follow.
Could I have like community and community education, maybe something like that? Because if nobody wants to put a poster in there, I'll put a poster in about the subjects that we not commercial, but just like people talking about death and dying and stuff like that. So we do.
It's a very big poster. All right.
Well, not if that would constitute advertising.
Yeah, it would.
No,
have
no,
to
it wouldn't be a
in
market. No,
notice.
no, no. It'd be like a message from an association, like the Hemlock Society or Alzheimer's Association or something, like a messaging from an organization that has, something that's of interest to the community. Not with our branding at all.
So it would follow the same process, but through a notice. That's a different type of sign and a different type of requirement that goes through that posting process.
So it still have to be approved every.
So I would put that
So,
into the
okay.
whatever condition we
I think I could
put
live with
together.
that.
That's it. I think that was the last point that I caught. Is there anything else?
Would you be able to read those conditions out?
I'll do my best.
Well, let me make the motion and you read them out.
Okay, sure.
I move to approve the signage proposal for 635 Massachusetts Avenue, docket number 3551, with the following conditions.
1 second. To work with staff on the following: replacement of, or I would just say, maybe I didn't quite catch this, sorry, the halo lit letters with gooseneck lighting. Where were we on that one? Because I have that we're deferring to the historical commission, but what is the overall preference of the board? I think I got a half and half on that
I
one.
thought we were gonna say, if you looked at the halo lit and thought it was
elegant enough.
elegant
Okay,
enough
so
and
then I'll
consistent
review.
with.
Otherwise, you
So
would go to
with
the
the
gooseneck.
Bylaw, we
Okay.
could do that, otherwise go with the gooseneck.
Exactly, that's what
Okay.
I heard too.
I think
Alright.
we just didn't feel comfortable concluding that it's in violation of the
Without actually
bylaw.
seeing
Without actually
what it
seeing
looks
it
like.
lit at night.
So that's condition one.
Okay, the second one is to allow the installation of the bulletin board for posting notices limited to one poster. That would be for the community. I
Non-
can come up with the
non-commercial
language.
notice.
Non-commercial use and following the notice section of the sign bylaw. The Mystic Street signage would be reduced in size and moved to the zone near the corner and fit the existing coursing, I think is what
That's correct, yeah,
we
that's good.
said. And then lastly, to be able to review the exact measurements, materials, and color of the awning to be on the Mass Ave facing side.
What about the film?
The film, we would review samples of the color to ensure that it is lighter in nature or compatible with the, sorry, let me bring that up.
I think we're looking for something that's translucent glass and
Translucent.
not really a gray film type.
I have lighter in color.
I mean,
And
we can go very light. It's just we just don't want
Simulating
people
frosted glass.
Right.
to. You know, imagine you were talking about
Yeah.
something serious and important. You don't want people staring at you, which is what we're
Simulating
living
That's
with.
helpful. All right, that was it.
Okay.
5.
Well, I've made that motion with those conditions.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The hearing
Good
is
teamwork.
closed. I can follow that. Thank you.
So, do you actually do the card? Like you, does Sally have your information?
She does.
Oh, okay, then we'll be in touch.
I think that was a good move, moving the sign off to the corner.
Yeah. I didn't like it there, but if they put it on the corner.
Yeah, it's fine. Now this is left completely clean, but it still has some advertising, which I think is valid for a business.
But this is what they own that park.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I agree with you.
Laura.
You convinced me.
Laura, we have one more hearing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we're
We're behind.
Yeah, we have one more hearing before
Sorry.
the agenda item. Just letting you know.
So moving on to, I did close the public hearing for docket 3551, and I will now open public hearing for ADR special permit docket 3552. I think the proponent is here. I have you come forward, introduce yourself, and tell us what we are looking at, what you're looking for this evening.
Good evening. My name is Andrew LaFuente, proposing a sign for 478 Massachusetts Avenue. It was a previous restaurant, I'm not sure what kind, but I think it was some sort of pizza sub shop.
Roast beef and pizza.
Oakland's roast beef.
Roast beef, there you go.
Pizza.
And it's going to be called 478 Mass Ave, and it's a steak and lobster concept. These folks actually just opened up another location in Boston as well, and it's something that they're looking to, to expand and franchise nationwide. But Arlington would actually be the first official location.
We're in Boston.
On, you put me on the spot here. South Boston, Columbus Ave, 537. 537A, Columbus Ave.
South End, that's Boston.
Or yeah, so, yeah, Back Bay. Back Bay.
Still south.
Would you
Yeah.
want Ally to review in your application?
Let him finish first.
Okay, yeah, I'm just thinking.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it, unless you guys have specific questions or you want me to go over what it is we're
How
asking
does
to
that relate to the picture of the sign?
do. Yeah, sure. So the sign that's there now, it's an illuminated box, both on Mass Ave and that corner side as well.
Swan Place.
Yeah. That is a very old concept sign.
No, I got that, but I'm just trying to say, where is this sign?
Right, that was my question.
That sign,
Can't
On-
tell,
on
you
the
didn't show a
building?
picture of where it is on the building.
the shop drawing I submitted had all of that.
I didn't see it.
Yeah, was that part of submittal?
Oh,
No.
let's see it.
Now, all we have is a photo
We have this.
and
Right.
a drawing, exactly.
Yeah.
Where's that go?
No, I sent three images, and I have the shop drawing here if you folks would like to see it.
Who needs this?
Me.
Who does that? Okay.
Thank you, sorry.
So it's a projecting blade side, double-sided, custom bracket. The sign is circular, obviously 4-foot diameter. It's engraved on both sides.
Sticking
better
out
than that.
perpendicular
Yeah.
to the,
Correct.
right over the door.
Right in the center of that right there. Is there one around the other side, or that goes away too?
No, that goes away.
So there'll be one.
Correct. The owners or the new tenants are actually thinking on that side to one day do like a walk-up window, but I think they're gonna apply for that permit later, so they asked me to not ask for or recommend any signage at this time.
So just one blade sign that's 4 feet diameter.
Correct.
Centered above the door,
Yep.
right in the middle there.
Yeah, and what's interesting about this building and the reason we're proposing this is because where the current sign is on Mass Ave, there are glass windows, 2 glass windows behind that sign. So when I spoke to these folks, they said, Andrew, I want to do some kind of either individual, cut letters or kind of a sign box on the brick. But if you did that, that sign is going to be well above all the other businesses that are there currently, and it just wouldn't look right.
So is that, let's say that medallion sign, okay?
Yep.
Is it located on the brick, or is it located in the sign band?
Yeah, so the plate, the steel plate that supports the bracket
Yep.
will be on the brick. But the sign is going to fall below, so it's essentially the height from the bottom of the sign to the top is going to be where that existing sign box is now. It's going to cover that area. That's why I proposed the bracket, not to go higher.
Not the way this is shown,
Well, yeah, sir, with all due respect, you just don't have the third page, but I sent the third page.
because this is level with the mounting, not
Yes.
below it.
Oh, so,
this right here? This-
oh, that plate you mean, yeah.
Well, no, the sign is level with the plate, so if the plate's on the brick, this is on the brick. It's not hanging below.
Nothing is hanging on the brick in terms of the sign, just
I mean,
the
its
plate.
position.
Yeah. If you would like me to lower that, I mean, that's not necessarily
No,
to scale.
I don't want you to lower
you know.
it, I kinda wanna see what it looks like on the building, and I have no idea from
Yeah,
pictures.
I mean, I can show you
Well-
this again if you like.
I mean, it looks like it would be, I thought from the picture, it was in the sign band, and there was actually glass, there's.
Yeah, but he's saying that the mounting bracket is on the brick.
Yeah,
It
because
is on the brick.
when we take
Oh,
down
yeah,
that
yeah,
sign,
I
it's going to
see now.
expose the
I
glass,
see.
and we obviously can't mount to the glass.
So it is hanging, it's not within that
It's a little
current
high,
sign.
it's a little higher, I'd
It's
say.
higher, and the
It's a
bottom
little
of it's
higher.
hanging down a
Yeah,
little
it's a little
bit.
higher, yeah.
Not the whole thing.
No.
And how much does it extend out?
4
from the
feet.
wall? 4 feet out
Yeah.
from the wall?
Well, maybe like 4 foot 3 inches, just because of that little gap from, the right side of the sign to the plate itself.
And what's the dimension from the bottom of the
This-
sign
this
to
other awning
The
sign
ground
is about
elevation, I
that
have
far,
it on that attachment.
No.
Monster sign.
All right. Ally, can you tell us what the department found?
Sure, so.
I can open that up for you.
Sorry, it's okay.
As we've sort of reviewed, so the previous sign was 33.75 inches tall by 174 inches wide. This would be a round bracket sign, 4 feet in diameter, 5 inches wide, and it would extend 4.5 feet from the facade of the building. Previously permitted sign was unlit. Bracket signs are allowed in B5 zones. However, it must meet the following requirements: no less than 8 feet clearance from the ground level to the bottom of the sign, no more than 15 feet high from the ground to the top of the sign, and the square footage of the sign shall be no longer than 12 square feet.
Does it say how much you can project?
Shall project no more than 50 inches from the face of the building.
4 feet.
4 feet.
But you've got a
So
bracket.
it is
sticking
within
farther in.
that, but we don't have the measurements of where the bottom of the sign would be in relation
It's
to the,
11-foot ground elevation
from the bottom of the sign.
to the sidewalk. Yeah, from the sidewalk to the bottom of the sign, 11 feet.
And what's allowed?
8,
No less than
8 minimum.
No less than
no less
Yeah.
than 8. So that it just needs to be detailed in the drawing.
Sure.
So it is a significant departure from the previously permitted sign, but the reason is to expose a historic feature of the building. The design and color and there was lighting part of this. I'm actually,
No, non-illuminated.
yeah.
Yeah, this is
Um,
non-illuminated.
so
The
the-
natural light from from the inside that will now go through that glass because you have much more glass exposure. There's no need for any additional illumination.
So while it is, it would be great to expose the historic feature of the building, it's very much out of context with everything else on the block to have the perpendicular bracket sign. And we just need more detailed measurements. And it would,
5.
there would also be,
6. What's this distance?
we'd like to see a more detailed plan
Just
for
wanna know.
the restored glass and the restored facade and what that might look like.
Ask another question.
I
Go
think this,
ahead.
I think this might be great, but I think you have to show us the real dimension. For instance, you have to show it to us on a picture of the building.
Yeah. No, for whatever reason, if
Well,
you
even
folks
even
have,
that, I'm not really getting a good sense of
Yeah.
Right.
what it's going
No,
to
no,
look
you
like.
can't show
I
it.
can- I can
in
change
a
that,
cell
that's
phone
fine.
shot from another different. And we need to know how far it is off the building, because we have
Mhm.
to. So you're saying it's 4 foot in diameter. There's a 6-inch mounting bracket, and there's some kind of a distance which might be 5 inches.
that's not 6 inches, sir.
It
That
says 6 inches.
yeah, 6 inches wide. That's not the thickness.
Oh.
Yeah. The plate's just 1/4 inch.
It's shown in
At an angle. Okay.
Correct.
Yeah, that's
it's
not
in a
actually-
funky drawing.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I like the idea. I'd just like to see exactly what it looks
Right.
like. I might want it a little bit smaller.
Right.
But as far as a bracket sign, I mean, I'm looking at Google Maps of what else is up and down the street, and it's superior to anything else except for a couple spots. So,
Sure.
You
Oh,
know,
that's right.
yeah, it's not what's in place so far, but it's an
I
improvement.
mean, I
on
would
what's in
say
place.
it's inconsistent with what's in use on the rest of the stores along that block, but from a historical perspective, it might be more consistent with the historical
I think it's
nature
more
of the
consistent with a
property.
historical perspective, and it also could be a leader to encourage some of these other buildings, these other
It looks
businesses
nice. I agree with you.
And-
as they move on.
And also
It's
to-
takes-
it's allowed by the bylaw.
Yeah.
It
it's
also
allowed.
takes out the
Depending on the
bad
size,
sign and puts
exactly.
glass
Yeah.
there, right?
Yeah, correct.
So I said, I think it could be great. I
Sure.
just think we need to see enough of it that we know what we're.
Yeah, approving. Sure. No, I
But
understand.
it sounds like we're missing something that you think you submitted?
Yeah, if you folks have those 2 pages, I'm not sure why you don't have the third, but it's fine. When I make the changes, I'll make sure that everything comes, within the same package. So I apologize about that.
Are you in a rush for this?
Middle.
Like,
I mean,
is this a rush thing, or like the other guy, or how's this working?
I mean, the other guy, no, because they're not operating yet. They're going to begin construction, I believe, tomorrow. Not to say, we can wait 6 months or 8 months, but,
I think
we
you
have
probably-
time.
This is not the business owner, so I don't know if you have any sense of their projected opening date or what their timeline is.
I do not know that, so they did just get their building permit for interior work.
Okay. So we have some time for you to come back and show us what we're looking for.
Sure.
One view on the photograph is nice.
Hmm.
A section, so you can see exactly how far it sticks out.
Yeah, of course.
And I think you're hearing some encouraging words, and it could be a nice precedent to get other people thinking along those lines.
Yeah.
And show us what it look like from
Sure.
this corner perspective.
All right.
As well,
Yeah, that's
so
fine.
we can see it from the corner of Swan Place
Yeah.
and Mass Ave.
No, and the reason that I came up with this is because I just think for Arlington, the location, this will do you guys a lot more justice than this look. As I said, this is just
I
a
don't think
much.
no argument there.
Yeah, yes, it's.
I don't think you want to.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
if we get rid of
Just
that
need a
pizza
little more
sign, it'd be good.
detail.
understood.
Don't harp
That's
on
fine.
that one. We got it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Can-
So I think.
work with the staff on what.
Okay,
So we'll continue this. I guess I'll have to take a motion to continue it. We'll continue it to a date.
sure.
Then you can work with staff on another
Perfect.
date.
A motion for continuing this docket number 3552.
Yes.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. Thank you. Thanks
Okay.
for waiting.
Yeah,
For the,
no, thank you very much, guys.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Nice to see you again. All right. That hearing is closed for the time being and continue. All right. Update from Housing Plan Implementation Committee. Laura, come on up. Please have a seat. Anybody, anyone can
Everybody.
come
This
up.
is the
Please.
housing plan. This is everybody.
This is the entire committee.
Except for Pam. Except for Pam.
Oh.
Welcome.
Can they each say their names? So we know who they are?
Yes.
They should.
Yeah, we can pull those.
Well, why don't we have whoever's going to be
Nobody wants to sit at the
come
table, so
close.
we're gonna do this. How's
Fine,
this? How's that?
fine, I've lost all control.
At this point, that's okay.
Right.
So.
I see what you're doing. Okay, okay. That's nice.
All right, so Laura, do you want to introduce everyone, or does everyone want to introduce
Yes.
themselves?
Well, we have a presentation for you, and everyone will introduce themselves as they speak. If that's all right with you.
Fantastic.
Okay.
All right, go ahead.
So I'm very pleased to be here tonight with the Housing Plan Implementation Committee, which you appointed last winter, and I believe this is probably the first time you've met many of the people on the committee. We started meeting in the spring, and we quickly arrived at accessory apartments as a place to sort of start. What I meant to say before that was that you also remember that you adopted last year a housing production plan, and the implementation committee was appointed to implement the plan, and that's where we started on at accessory apartment as a first thing that we would give a try to. That would be, we thought it would be sort of a flexible solution, easy to implement, that would fit into the fabric of the neighborhoods of the town, and might actually produce some new housing fairly quickly. We've drafted a proposed bylaw, which we're going to go through with you. I think you may have had a chance to look at it, and it's really just a starting point for discussion. I'll go through the elements of the proposal, and then the committee members will speak. So an accessory apartment is defined as a second unit in a single-family zone or a third unit in a two-family zone that is subordinate in size to the primary unit. It's not considered a second principal unit. We looked at two different kinds. One we called an internal accessory apartment, which is an apartment that is wholly contained within the primary structure. And for an internal accessory apartment, we are proposing that it be allowed by right, that you would only need to get a building and an occupancy permit. You would not need to get a special permit. But there would also be an external accessory apartment, which could be in a garage or a barn or another accessory structure on the lot. So it's not a new structure, but it's within a second structure. Could be over a garage or barn as well. And for that type of accessory apartment, you would need to get a special permit from the ZBA. Some of the other conditions we talked about for an internal accessory apartment would be that it had to have at least the minimum lot size for the zone where it was located. So non-conforming lots, 4,000 square foot lots, it would not be allowed. The gross floor area would be 33% of a single family dwelling, or 50% of the larger unit in a two-family dwelling, but no more than 750 square feet. So it's clearly subordinate in size to the primary unit. The only external changes would be a second means of egress. The unit would have to be owner-occupied, and that would be enforced by the building inspector, and there would be, we took this from, I think, Newton, some kind of affidavit that you would sign when you built it that you would continue to live in the house. And when you sold the house, the new owner would have to sign a similar affidavit. We did not require additional parking spaces because we think that the units are small, there won't be very many occupants, and in many cases they're close enough to public transit, because we have so many bus lines in Arlington, that it would be quite possible that the occupants would not need another car. And then the last thing was that we talked about having somewhat of an occupancy limit of somewhere between 30 and 90 days because we don't want to open up to an Airbnb type situation where you've got an accessory apartment that's being turned over every week by new occupants. So those are just those are the broad guidelines of what we're talking about here.
My name is Kate Casa, and I live in the Arlington Heights. I was also on the Housing Plan Advisory Group, which came up with the housing plan, or worked with you and town to come up with the housing plan. And I guess, we have been working and thinking a lot about how can we expand housing opportunities in town, how can we create more flexible housing to support families, elderly people, 20-somethings, young professionals, keep those folks in town. And I think we began to think that this is, one opportunity, one avenue that we can take. And as we began to research and look into it a little bit, it's really a trend that a lot of communities are looking at throughout the state. Many communities, 57% actually, in eastern Massachusetts already have allowable accessory dwelling units of some sort. But in our immediate communities, Cambridge, Lexington, Newton, Burlington, several surrounding communities, it's allowed. And what we learned, and Boston is looking into it, and Cambridge has just expanded a program to allow accessory dwelling units in the basements. But we specifically we looked at a number of communities, but we specifically looked at Lexington and Newton, which had accessory dwelling unit by special permit on the books for quite a while, and have most recently decided to expand it to create more opportunities in town, and also because not so many people use them, and they wanted to broaden it a little bit and make it more a successful program, and they wanted to expand on it. So Julie did quite a bit of the research for us, and I think she can talk a little bit more about that.
Sure. So my name is Julie Wayman. I oversee the Community Development Block Grant for the town. And as Kate said, as part of learning about what other communities are doing, I reached out to Newton and Lexington to learn about their process. I think there was a lot to take away from what they went through, but I think one piece that we as a group felt was important to highlight was that each of these communities are only seeing a small number of applicants each year. So I think that going through the process, there may be a worry that there could be an influx of really a large number of people who are looking to make changes to their homes, but each of these communities were only seeing a few each year. They weren't really overwhelmed by once they did adopt the accessory dwelling units into their bylaw. And also it was mentioned to me in the conversations with people, I think especially James and Newton had mentioned that Portland, Oregon, less than 1% of the properties have accessory dwelling units. So, a place that's very progressive and there's a lot of support for this. They also don't see a real overwhelming number. So we thought that was a point that would be important to highlight for you all.
I'm Jonathan Nyberg. I'm a realtor in town, and I live near the center of town. So 2 examples, like who would our candidate be, how would this be applicable? And first example was potentially a town employee, a teacher, somebody who's maybe living in Burlington, otherwise single, 20s, early 30-something, who could benefit from a more affordable housing situation and also then be able to really be more part of their community where they're also working for commuting and then also just being connected and aware of the community. And the other situation is actually a neighbor of mine, which the parents were in sort of the process and a pickle of figuring out how to downsize. The kids can't really afford to live in Arlington anymore. So they came up with a situation by doing an addition, sort of creating an auxiliary apartment. They were able to accommodate and enable 2 families that otherwise would have had to leave Arlington to stay in Arlington. So I think one of the most important concepts is flexibility to help accommodate families and different needs that families have.
I'm Katie Einstein. I live in the Heights, and I'm a professor at Boston University who studies housing and urban policy. One of the other points we really wanted to flag is that this is a way for us to regulate what's already happening in Arlington. So all of us in this group could think of neighbors who have illegal dwellings of this type already in their homes. And this is a way for us to make sure that they comply with safety codes and have the appropriate numbers of egress, for example. And so we think that's a really important issue too for us to consider.
And I'm Ann Woodward. I also live in Arlington Heights and I work in affordable housing. And I asked to join the Housing Plan Implementation Committee because I was so impressed with the plan itself and the desire to add more units that would be available to moderate income people and low income people. And this is an opportunity, I think, to increase the number of units available in a situation where Arlington's not going to be able to build itself into that goal. There's just not enough space to increase your units by building a lot more. This seems in some ways like low-hanging fruit to allow people who want to increase the number or to have one additional unit to be able to do that in their own property.
I'm Lori August. I live in East Arlington, and I'm the social worker at the Arlington Council on Aging a lot of years. And they're very aware of sort of the housing pressures for older residents, both homeowners and renters. But I see the accessory dwelling units as being helpful to older residents. First off, for homeowners, it gives some flexibility, some options around kind of, live-in caregiving situations. Also as a way perhaps of getting some income to help pay for living costs, and also perhaps having relatives be able to live in the unit, but maybe not right in your unit, but nearby, close enough so that you can have good interchange between generations. And also on the other side, so younger homeowners may be interested in this if they have elderly parents, would like to have them move here to the Boston area, and it's a way of incorporating them into their household without being quite on top of each other.
So that's our proposal, and so we want to just open it up to discussion. We really would like to hear what you think, and both about the proposal itself and about any thoughts about the process going forward.
Go ahead, Andy, or Kim.
One question you guys have put down there saying that you're okay to have these in-law units within the unit, as long as the lot size is a regular, legitimate lot, which is 6,000 square feet for an R1. Half the units in Arlington are less than 6,000 square feet, so you're already eliminating half the units. I would like to question it, can we say for those non-conforming lot sizes that are, let's say, 5,000 square feet, which is a lot of them are all over the place, they're everywhere, okay? That it would be allowed, maybe if they don't increase the size of the unit, the size of the building. A lot of people are living smaller and smarter now, so you're not really infringing on neighbors or anything else. It's just that you have to live in a non-conforming lot of 5,000 square feet. You can still put a house in there, put another in-law unit in there. That's what I just want to bring up for you guys to look at and discuss. I'm not here to say but just something, there's something there.
We're totally open to that.
Yeah.
The other thing, I really like how you guys encourage not adding additional parking, a requirement for additional parking. Okay, I don't think that's good because then you're adding all this traffic to the neighborhood, and then there's all the concerns about that. If there's room for parking, fine, but if there's no room, that's not
I think they were saying no additional parking.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Right.
So you're not you're not requiring it. So we're not automatically, by doing this, adding all extra traffic.
Right.
I think it's a good thing.
Yeah.
But if there is, I'm not going to limit that either. Those are my two quick things.
And to your point, Ken, many seniors, maybe they have one car, and they have driveway that fits 4, so there is parking.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that
Or
aging.
maybe they don't ride, yeah.
Yeah, but I like the concept about aging in place for either younger people or older people, and it's very flexible. I think that I encourage that a lot. I think that's a good sign to be able to increase the housing stock without really increasing density, but then giving the autonomy of everybody having their own little space, you know, a little small kitchen, a little small bathroom, you know, so you still have your independence. That's a good thing.
Other questions, comments? Gene?
Have you talked to the assessors about what this would mean to the assessed value of a house where they added an accessory unit?
We have not yet
We
talked to
haven't
the
yet.
assessor.
Okay. I was, there, in the copy that we got, there was a note, comment, accessory building setbacks are 6 from rear road. Do we need to account for this some way, or is 6 feet adequate? Was there an answer to that comment
No, that's,
that
I think
somebody
we
wrote?
thought of that as a policy question,
Uh-huh.
that it was something I wanted to point out to people so that they understood what the ramification of allowing an accessory unit in an accessory structure was, that the accessory structures are sometimes closer to the lot line.
Okay.
Like it's a policy question. Do we
But it
want,
would need to be built into whatever the proposed bylaw
right,
would say.
But Gene, right now, you're allowed to put accessories building closer
garage, for instance?
to the property line.
Right.
As long as that,
Yeah, this,
that the structure is fire resistant or something.
yeah, this is getting toward, I'm a big fan of accessory units for many of the things that you said, especially when they're in the main building. My experience in Arlington, and I agree that we can probably all think of some people who have these interesting tenants in their single family homes. But I'm a little bit more concerned about having them in external units. One, for the reason that you mentioned. Second is, so if we have a single-story garage, this would, I think, theoretically allow somebody to build a second unit on top of it that would be a lot closer to the lot line than you would otherwise.
I think you're limited by
right?
28 feet at the ridge.
No, right, I'm saying that you could put on a second unit, and you would then have a building that is closer to the lot line than you could have had if you built it as a freestanding unit. So I have a little concern about the problem with that. I have a little concern too. I'm not sure what the answer is, but I think it's worth thinking
Concern, yeah.
about what to do about that. I'm a little, and both the height close to somebody else's property that they otherwise wouldn't get. And then an accessory apartment located with an accessory structure already existing on the same lot. So what I've seen happen in my neighborhood is people have they've torn down garages or built new garages. So this would theoretically, as I read this, allow somebody to say, oh, I know how I can do this. I'm gonna build a garage on the property, and then once it's built, then I'm gonna go ahead and apply for an accessory unit because that structure is then already existing. So they would first get the approval and build the accessory structure, and then they would come back and say it's built. Was that your intention to allow that to happen?
No.
So that
It
needs
was
to
the
be.
intention that, that the building existed.
Yeah,
I
so
don't know,
this,
I guess we
this
could
would
say
need to
5
be,
years
this
or
would need
something
to be
like that.
massaged, like at the time that the accessory bylaw is adopted, the building would have had to be there, or something like that. I'm not sure, I'm just sort of saying.
I would
you
go
know.
with Laura's 5 year.
I don't know.
Yes, it's something.
But, I mean, I think it's worth thinking about, or else it's very easy to game the system.
Yeah.
If you want to, I could put, a nice little accessory, something in my backyard, and then build up a second story to put on
But
an accessory building. And I think that will get a real lot of pushback.
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to create a situation where people can easily game the system, because then you might as well just allow them to, say, roll a tiny house onto the property and just plant it there rather than going through the rigmarole of building a garage first.
Right.
I think you can do that right now,
I think
right?
that's a good idea.
Can't you do that right now? Just park a trailer, tiny home there right now?
Yeah, so I think those were the initial things that occurred to me when I read this over the weekend about it.
Go ahead, Jonathan.
I'm not an assessor, but as a realtor, it's an interesting point because I would say that there's really no value difference with the house with an accessory or with an in-law versus not. It just fits a different person. So, you know, if you have one with an in-law, let's say it's 800,000 and one without the in-law is 800,000. You know, nowadays anyway, we have to take the, you know, stoves out. So it's just meeting a different client's need. It'd be interesting. I don't know if there's really any value difference.
I ask because I'm not
Yeah.
sure. I can see your argument, but I can also see an argument that it's generating an income,
Yeah.
or theoretically that you wouldn't otherwise have, and
Yeah.
therefore there is some increased assessment, or especially if you've built something onto an accessory unit, then clearly onto an existing separate unit, then clearly you've added value. And if you rearrange the inside of the house to provide it, you've probably increased the assessed value too. I just think it would be an interesting conversation to have with the assessor and know what the answer would be in
Good
advance.
Yeah, that's a good question.
I think if you increase the square footage, definitely, but I hadn't thought about the income piece.
Yeah.
Other questions, comments?
I think it's great. I mean, we've talked about this a while ago, Laura, you'll remember.
Right, 2012.
I
We had a
remember.
proposal.
Oh, I forgot I had one
I
of
think you
the-
might be
Go
the
ahead.
only one
Sorry.
Go ahead,
on the
Jean.
board then.
Most of the two families are now condos.
Mhm.
Is this intended to cover those that have been converted to condos, or those that are still two-family with one owner? It was not clear to me which one this was intended to cover, or both.
Well, that's
That's a
nuanced.
tricky
Yeah,
one.
that's
Right.
Maybe a condo
interesting.
would become a single residence.
I think it's
Yeah.
worth trying to figure that out, because I felt like there was no definition about whether two-family intended to be all of those
Yeah.
that had been converted into two
Yeah.
condos
I
or
agree with
not, and whether there's some difference with how you would approach them or not.
point.
Sorry, I forgot.
That's
Because a lot of people right now are like in East Arlington are just buying those two families and
Yeah.
just condoing it by doing nothing but just paperwork.
Right, yeah, so.
Right? That's
right,
and that's legal right now, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
So
But
would you let one of
accessory
those, would
apartments-
you let one of those two condos to be split up into basically two apartments?
Yeah.
Or one
Well-
that has the third floor.
That's more
Yeah.
like.
You know, the third
Right,
floor
that's a
area.
third floor.
Well,
Like I
so
have a second
it's-
and third floor.
It's worth thinking about what you meant by that. And,
Yeah.
you
Maybe
know.
that's exempt.
But that-
like condos
that
are
also-
exempt or something. You can't.
That also creates the possibility of disputes between the condo owners. If, you know, say the second floor owner who might have the right to dormer out the third floor and expand decides to turn it into an accessory apartment.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's in their condo doc,
I-
whether it's
Yeah.
allowed or not allowed.
Right,
think-
I know, I think
So-
that's
Could get complicated.
yeah.
It could
Okay.
get complicated. It
interesting.
could
Jean's
also create a
that Jean's
significant.
brings up a good question that we should look into that.
Yeah.
It's part of this.
It does have to be rental. They couldn't make a third condo, but.
Right, but they-
It's still.
No, but David's
yeah.
point is a good one, and I can easily see that happening with some of those where the second floor owner decides to expand and
Yeah.
rent it out as an accessory apartment for a few years to pay for the renovation,
Yeah.
and then takes it back. And if it's allowed under their condo docs, it creates.
Or it may not be prohibited, because so many of the condo docs have been written years ago without
Yeah.
thinking
Yeah.
about all those sorts of things.
Yeah.
We'll have to think about that.
Yeah, that's an interesting.
I just wanted to go through back to 2012 to make sure that those arguments that were brought up
Mm-hmm.
because we were trying to do this because of all the reasons you're saying. It just makes a lot of sense to be able to use spaces and be more flexible. And the world hasn't changed. It's changed even more to the point where all the points you made are correct, and we're seeing a lot of people trying to figure out how to live less expensively, not pay huge rents, and take advantage of these spaces. So I'd like to echo what these guys are saying. We got to look back, Laura and the group, to make sure that we're addressing those kinds of concerns that were brought up by Jean and others, so that when you go up, if it gets to this point, which I hope it will, that those arguments are going to come out. I remember one of them, I think, and I may be wrong about this, was something about it would encourage developers to build bigger houses because they could kind of build in that extra, or that it would encourage them to build on what would normally be a small house that fits into the neighborhood, another bigger addition. So they're actually basically, not gaming the system, but basically just acting as a developer. I can add on to this and I can rent it. So there was discussion about that, and actually was putting a sour note on what would otherwise be filling in a need in an existing condition versus using it as a way to develop bigger houses. Somehow that should be addressed this time again before it becomes another.
One thing we found is, with Newton and Lexington, again, a lot of people going to the extremes, but then when they actually implement it
doesn't work that
4
way,
people,
right?
I think, since March, you were saying, have applied in Newton. And how big is Newton?
Right.
Bigger than Arlington.
So you're probably addressing
Lexington,
that.
maybe 5 to 10. So that's the hard part. How do you either throttle or harness the extremes to not take the possibility from everybody? Do you know what I mean? Because you're always going to have that one bad person, that 2 bad people, or we might get 5 garages one year that are mega built, but if there's 5,000 garages in town.
Well, I think the way you presented it was right. You said that's really not going to happen in real life, but you should be aware. We should be aware of it as we go.
Yeah, we want to think of it. I mean, one of the things about the larger houses is ironic to me, because I don't know, on my street, I mean, I don't know if you could build bigger houses than the new houses that are going into the. All the little houses are being taken down, and much larger houses are going up. So, in a way, that might be a change since 2012.
And would it be so
Yeah,
terrible
community.
if 2 families could live in that house instead
I
of
know,
1 family?
exactly.
Well, and the bigger houses
I mean,
that are
there's
being
a-
built can now open up a smaller, more affordable unit for somebody else.
Well, I mean, I thought one of the big arguments
I know,
against
we
the
know.
accessory dwellings, and I don't know what the answer to it is then you're taking what are single-family, residential zones and effectively turning them at least partly into 2-family residential zones, and I think
it's the
that,
fear.
I think,
but I don't think it's the reality.
how do you answer? I mean, I think the answer, we need more housing, et cetera, all makes sense, but it's a different answer than what those concerns have been.
What, I guess I don't know, I don't completely understand what the concern is about that. What, is it traffic, is it?
No, well, if you
Financial.
live in a single family zone, all of a sudden you allow this, and then I'm not saying this is not me. I'm just saying people might say, "Oh, but now you're allowing 2-family houses in this single family zone."
So it turns an R1 into a de facto R2.
There are a number of
it's
grandfathered
not illegal.
multifamilies in our R1 where we live.
Yeah.
I think a number of us live in the Heights, and there are lots of multifamilies already.
Right.
That have been there
Definitely are.
forever. So
Right.
I think that's one piece that we were thinking about.
The other thing is these are small units within a big
Right.
square
Right.
footage.
Right.
So you're not really necessarily increasing density. I mean, there were many more people who lived in my house 60
Yeah.
years ago
Right.
than live in my house right now.
Right.
So I mean, really, in terms of changing the neighborhood,
Oh, we agree. I think
I
this,
know
these
you
are
do,
things.
but I mean, I
these
think
are things
that
that were brought up.
this is going to come up. There's no
Be
question.
aware
But I
this-
think
This incentivized thing came up, where they said, oh, it's incentivizing you to build,
Totally. These are
everybody to
good
build another
questions.
attic
Yeah.
and build the one like this,
Yeah.
right, that takes advantage of the 24-foot height and gets you another room.
Yeah.
think
So
the-
that, what you're saying is de facto doesn't really happen. But that argument's gonna come up, so I
Yeah.
think it's
Bless you.
good to have the
Need
ammunition to
answers.
say,
Definitely.
this isn't really working in that way, it's working more from what's existing, you know, that way.
We had a conversation, I actually attended a meeting in Newton on this topic through, and MAPC was facilitating. And the question about builders being incentivized to create a little bit of a larger structure to eventually put in an ADU did come up. And I'll go back to them to get a little bit more of the detail on what they said, but essentially the builders were saying, we're not interested in doing that. We're not seeing enough demand
Right. It's
to
not-
actually build that into
So it's not penciling
native
out, they're
properties.
saying.
So I'll get a little bit more from them, but that was the essential
Or
reply.
maybe, you know, if you're gonna do something with 5 years on adding to an outbuilding, maybe it's the same 5
Oh,
years.
that's interesting.
Right.
And they added that,
Yeah.
something like that
To-
too.
to
They did,
sort of
yep.
Not
For new
allow
construction.
They
this
had
to
it.
go like turnover like
Mhm.
that from a single family to a 1.5.
Right, you mean when they first build it and move in, you can't immediately.
Right, put
Right.
some years
Okay,
worth
I
of
see.
something.
Just a quick question from your expertise and experience. How is there any way to go about say, hey, this is an idea. Let's just try it for 1 year. Then let's reconvene in a year. And if it's been absolutely horrible, the plan gets shut down and we move along. I think that, you know what I mean? I don't know how to, if there's a way we could figure that out, let's do a 1 year trial. We're gonna do pilot, whatever. Because I think what happens is this fear mongering just goes and goes, and
What happened in
every house over
2012?
2,000 square feet is going to be a 9 family, and blah blah blah. And what I find as a realtor, two things. One is a lot of people with the larger single families, they love their privacy. They're not really looking. I mean, they want more space. They're buying the big house because they want and they need the space. And then the other thing though is, like Ken was saying, well, there's a need. 3 out of 4 buyers I had this past weekend want space for their parents. They want a first floor master bedroom or something, or some way to accommodate family that's either living in full-time helping with kids or there for a long time each year, and that's going to be a market demand.
This is a zoning change, right?
Yeah.
So I cannot see, it'll take a year, or maybe a year and a half to get the zoning change implemented.
Okay.
And then just to have it for a year, I've never seen that happen anywhere. Okay.
You gotta get consensus as you're doing and make it.
You could like have it sunset in like 5 years, keeping the 5-year thing.
Yeah.
And then in the 5th year, the
You-
town meeting could decide whether they wanted to extend it or not.
Or rather just put it in place.
Well, they'd have to amend,
Yeah.
they'd have to amend to get rid of the 5-year
Go ahead.
sunset.
Yeah.
Have you thought through how implementing this would affect the existing illegal units and how they would be brought into the system or not, and how the people would be affected as a result?
I think many of them would still be illegal, because most of those are still out of code.
And probably those are not owner occupied, I would say.
No.
I'd say probably never could be made legal.
Yeah.
In Newton, they provided an opportunity for people to come and ask questions anonymously of the inspectional services to see what would be required to bring their ADUs up to code. So I thought that was kind of a nice opportunity. for
Maybe
people.
with an amnesty.
6 months
Something.
amnesty.
I mean,
Behind the
because
scenes.
certainly from
Distorting
a
the
public
voice.
safety perspective, we want
Mhm.
people to be in compliant units, but we also don't want to suddenly be turning large numbers of people out into the street. Be-
Right.
Can I ask a question? What would be so bad if somebody's building, like there's a new house on my street, it must be 4,000 square feet. What if, and maybe in fact that house has it, who knows what's in there, but what if a part of that new construction house from the original plan was that it was going to contain an accessory unit? Why would that be so bad?
Because then you would be allowing two-family homes in single-family districts, and you would in effect be exploding zoning law that way, which sets up single-family, two-family multis.
I hear your point there, and I hear Jean's point, but I'm going to say this, okay? This is my own personal belief, okay? If that one developer gained the system, okay? Let's say he gained the system and was able to put in this two-family in this one family, but a 1.5 family in this one, okay? But this law or zoning here helped out 25 people, and one person gained something, I'm okay with that. I'm personally okay with that because I helped so many more people. And I think that's...
I have to wonder, this is like getting pretty esoteric, but I have to wonder if that would violate the uniformity of zones that's part of the state zoning code. And I don't know the answer to that.
I know, but I'm, I'm talking about the spirit. Of it, not like...
Or the reality of it.
And
there's always somebody who's going to bend.
And if you're trying to stop everybody from gaining every little thing there, you're going to lose sight of the bigger picture of trying to help people out here. And we're trying to make it so that, people can live here affordably.
And whatever happens, they can't be a condo, it has to be a rental unit, so in that way, it's different than a two-family, which are now all
And it's limited
being
by
built as
size, so it's
condos.
more appropriate for one or two
limited
people
by
as opposed to a
size.
5-person family.
And the
More like
reality
one
is, right, the
person.
teardowns are already maxing out what they can do in their lot
Well,
sizes
that-
anyway, so it's not like they're gonna make it bigger, right? Like, oh, I'm
don't
gonna make
think
this
they-
4,500 square feet.
No, but I
You
think
can't, right?
the concern is an increase on resources in the neighborhood, an increase on traffic, an increase on density. And then, like Gene said, blowing up the zoning, where now you've got two families in what should be a single-family neighborhood.
I mean, 750 feet, it's certainly good to have a limit, but that's not terribly small.
Yeah.
I mean, my unit is under 1,000 feet of living space. And I remember my first apartment after college was about 400 square feet, and I thought that was palatial.
Well, we're open to what you think is a better number, that's why we're here, we
Yeah, I
want
also-
to hear what you think.
Yeah, that was a good one
I also would-
question I had.
I also would like to see a little bit more specificity on what's allowed for external units, because I don't think I'd want necessarily to see every garage in town turned into an accessory dwelling, but maybe things like barns and carriage houses would be okay. I think we need broader definitions of what kind of external structures would be allowed to be converted. And also what can be converted as far as staying.
Sheds.
Yeah. As far as size and dimensional requirements of the building code.
It's actually quite hard converting a external building.
Yeah.
Because the sewer lines are generally, they're in the back, and the sewer lines are on the street. The slope for that line, unless you put a pump in, it just doesn't really lend itself to that. Bringing in power and water there, it's not a problem, but it's the sewer line.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that's, it's gonna work everywhere.
Well, I think in the interest of time, because we're way out of our agenda time tonight, thank you all for coming.
Yeah, this is
And I
great.
think there's some general consensus from those of us here that we consider, and if I'm speaking out of turn, stop me, we consider putting something forward for a future town meeting. I don't know if it'll be this spring, but certainly something that we would consider supporting in front of town meeting.
Not for this spring, did you say?
I don't know that we have the time because of zoning recodification, but we can have a discussion.
Okay, so we'll put it on your agenda for a future meeting.
Yes.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. There's one more item related to this, is actually the appointment of Jonathan
Oh,
to
yes.
the committee.
I'll entertain a motion to appoint Jonathan to.
I move to appoint Jonathan Nyquist to the
Nyberg.
Nyberg to the
Housing Plan
And
Implementation
Committee.
So I'm not opposed to, there was no resume of Jonathan, so I don't know more about Jonathan than he just told us.
So
Right
Jonathan,
now.
I have worked with
Yeah,
Jonathan
actually,
on several committees.
just Jonathan is serving on the committee primarily because of his work on the residential study group.
Right.
So initially, he came over to this committee to make a bridge between the two, but, you know, I don't know if we have your.
Well,
Do you
just
have
tell
the
us,
resume?
We
tell
got a
us,
letter of interest.
We just have the letter.
Or just a letter
I
of
can
interest.
get you a resume.
Well, or just tell us a few things that would be in it.
So I have a real estate company called Old New England Properties. So I do work with buyers and sellers in Arlington. I've lived here since 1991. I call myself a little bit of a house missionary. I love buying old houses, fixing them up, repurposing them, saving them. I recently moved a house that was a nursing home on Lake Street. 129 Lake Street was going to be condemned. We had it moved and then converted from a 50-year-old nursing home back into a single-family residence, which was large. Could have an auxiliary apartment in it, but it also saved a property in Arlington that I think is important as we move forward. I also do some development. I work with developers. So I see different things happening in the market, needs, and I also love being part of my community and see the community grow over the last 26 years. And I used to be a neighbor of Andy's, so I saw one of the scary houses get fixed up. So I love making Arlington better in
The
a
scary house.
way.
I remember the scary.
Remember the scary house?
So would you continue with the residential study group
Yeah,
as well?
I think I can do both. Yeah, I used to be also on the historical districts commission for 7 years, so I did that and then kind of retired from that. But I like to give back and be part of my community, and it's nice having different perspectives from different areas.
Thank you.
So I can do both.
Second.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Come back. I'll say goodbye. I'll come back.
Andy, can I motion to adjourn?
No.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, minutes,
Jonathan.
and there was a problem I saw.
Jonathan, was that the one with the branches growing in and then back out? We'll talk about that.
Very quickly, I want Jenny to give us an update on zoning recodification, and then we'll table the meeting minutes.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Adjourn.
There's one little edit to them too.
I
so
have one.
that's
Yeah,
good.
I saw
Yeah,
something that didn't
there's
make
some
sense to me.
edits that
Table
need
those
be
to the
made.
next meeting.
Okay. So quick update is you've seen, we posted the recodified bylaw and the accompanying guide document. I've only received 2 comments so far as of today, and both were pretty straight, just helping somebody to navigate and find somebody. One of the emails was sent to this group, and I corresponded separately with Andrew, and I believe the response was provided to that individual.
And that was just a simple question of where something had
Where
moved from one
something went
section to
to.
a new section.
And
Yeah.
That was a mistake,
And
though, right?
what was the
It
response?
was not a mistake.
No, it wasn't a mistake,
was
it had
not-
moved.
It did move.
It did move.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
It was not, it was what he was asking about had not been removed from the bylaw. It had just been moved to a different section.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it was not a mistake, actually. It was just not, it's just that because of the reformatting of the document, it's just not, things are not the way that people are used to seeing where they are. So it was showing him where that was in the
So
document.
was that move reflected in the guide?
It was in the guide, actually. So I think that the guide, not everybody knows to use the guide yet, so I think it's just a matter of explaining to folks, here's the guide document, use that
Use
at
it.
the same time. Also, frankly, use the existing bylaw at the same time, because the guide is telling you, here's the existing section and here's the recodified bylaw. So if you're gonna use the guide, you're really technically comparing both. It's a lot of documents, but that's basically the update. So the next step is the zoning recodification working group meets tomorrow morning. I think that we're going to spend some time talking about a few things. One of them is the illustrations, which we had started discussions about, but that was not ready to be put into the bylaw. It's also not technically part of the bylaw. Any of the illustrations, they're for illustrative purposes only. So we have talked with town council about when it is appropriate to put those in. We think it would go by the hearing the public hearing on January 8th, but the committee itself needs to do a little more work, taking a look at those illustrations and getting on the same page. So that's one item. The second item is going back to the conversation that this board had the last time we met, which was to figure out how we're dealing with any red line or any type of document that's a little more detailed that we would be working on, I think, between now and essentially town meeting. And then the last part is how to handle the neighborhood meetings that we'll be having in January. Just sort of getting a sense of, needs for preparing for them, agenda for the meetings, et
How
cetera.
many meetings are there gonna be?
There are 4 neighborhood meetings.
So all the districts are sort of grouped together, or?
Yeah, it's basically the same sort of formula that was used for the master plan, where I think the meetings took place at various schools across the community to allow for different precincts to come together. So it's meant to be for town meeting members, but it's broadly, of course, advertised to the entire community.
No, we suggesting that we can do what we did last time and sort of split it up, and a couple of board members go to each one of those.
We haven't talked about the formatting or the agenda for those meetings. That's one of the things that would be talked about in the morning with the recodification working group. But if you think that that would be one idea, I can share that.
I think the recodification group is more intimately knowledgeable of all the changes and all that stuff. I think we can serve as support for them, but I think they're the ones that have the most knowledge, more intimate of all the changes.
Okay. So that was my update.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, I guess one other sort of quick thing is you may receive more emails. I would guess you would. What we are doing is we're creating basically a working draft document so that we can catalog any things that were, typos or mistakes or errors. We'll put them into a new document. We're not making any amendments to the document. The document is the document at this point because it has a date on it and there's a hearing date now. So we can't make any changes to the hearing
So any
draft
changes
document.
that are made will have to be done by amendment prior to our
But we
approval
can-
or prior
Can we
to town
do,
meeting.
can we do it? at
We
the
can
public
We can do
hearing?
it.
Right,
At the
as
public
amended.
hearing.
Staff isn't going to.
Right, but we can
No.
do it at the public hearing.
Yes.
But I'd
Yeah.
like to keep a working draft document so that I know about what those things might be. If you find anything, or if somebody says something to you, or we happen to all be on that email again, that kind of emails, then we want to keep a working draft so that we catalog all those issues. And then I guess the only other thing would be is if there's something wrong with the guide document, we may need to update that document. That is not part of the bylaw. That's just meant to be, for the use of helping people work through understanding what's in the document.
And I think just by default, we all deferred to Andrew and you to
Yes.
respond to the email that was sent to us, but it seems like that's a good procedure.
Please, yes.
Yep.
And so with Laura leaving on January 4th is actually her last day.
Is that
I will
public?
be. That is
It is
public.
now.
Yes, that is currently made public.
Laura Wienersley?
Yeah.
Yes, so we
Wow.
are going to be moving into the next phase, which means I was going to be more engaged at this point in terms of responding. She's been responding to emails that come to the zoning recod email address, so I'll take on all of the responses through that email. I think that's still actually the best format for people to use to actually get a response more quickly rather than hopefully emailing the entire board. But of course, if that happens, then I'll take on the responses. So,
Because I had briefly thought about responding, but decided to wait.
yeah, please.
Good choice.
It's helpful to,
All right.
to direct it our way. Thank you.
Okay, now?
Now you may.
Motion adjourned?
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.